What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Becoming Roy podcast. I'm your host, Roy, and this show exists to help people discover who it is that they're made to be. And I do that by sharing a little bit that I know, by sharing my story, sharing my experiences. I want to help people live inspiring lives by sharing the journey that I'm on. I am in pursuit of losing a total of 110 pounds. I am trying to be more inspirational and to be healthy in every sense of the word, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, everywhere I want to be healthy. And that's kind of what I'm chasing, if you will. And today's episode is an interesting one because it's something that I don't know that I really want to talk about, but I think talking about it, one, is going to help me process a little bit. I just talked the last episode to talk about remembering, and so as I was thinking about what episodes I can do, I was like, it might be good to kind of remember some of the stuff. But it's about spirituality, and I've had quite the experience, a not great experience. It's I don't know who my audience is, and if you are someone that could care less about church, God, religion, Christianity, whatever, I get it if you tune out, but I think it's an interesting story. So maybe hear me out. And on the note of not knowing who my audience is, I find myself in a very interesting point in my life because I'll get into this a little bit, but the coolest, most fun, the most impactful, the years that I felt were most meaningful to me were my early 20s, probably like 20 to 25. And that's when I was helping run a summer camp. I was running an after-school music program. And so I'm wondering who from that life, from that world, is still listening. Which is weird because that is Roy. Roy is summer camp. Roy is the best Roy that exists. And Roy working, teaching, coaching young people, helping to be inspiring and just believing in them. That is my peak form. Absolutely. And so I miss that. But that life, I feel like, is past me, behind me, and ahead of me, I think, in some ways. But right now, where I'm at today as a 28-year-old, 3 years removed from that job, it's just different. So the people that know me now know nothing about youth group Roy, know nothing about camp Roy. There's no grid, and that's weird. And I kind of want to get into that a little bit with sharing my story. But yeah, so I'm just going to start kind of from the beginning of my religious, quote unquote, religious walk. And I'm going to share with you in the end something that I've held on to that keeps me going. Because if I'm being really honest, really honest, it wasn't too long ago that I don't know that I could say that I believed in God. Was angry, hurt, let down, neglected, taken advantage of, all of that by this entity called the church, all by people with the title Christian or pastor. So it's a lot. So I'm going to share with you what I've held on to keep me from being bitter and to keep me really just trying. That's really all I'm doing because I don't really know where the hell I'm landing. Well, I mean, I kind of know where I'm landing, but anyways, so this is the story. It kind of starts with my parents. My parents had me very young. They were teenagers when they had me, and so they were essentially kids raising a kid. And my first memory of any type of Christianity or church was I was 8 years old. And when I was 8, my dad came to faith, and it was cool because he was reading me stories and he was doing some really cool stuff. he was like street evangelizing. If you don't know what that is, like he was just going out to the streets and was just telling people about his faith, which is weird, but cool. And so shortly after, my mom followed suit. I'm sparing some huge details. Maybe one day I'll ask my parents to come on and they can share the story. But they end up sending me to a summer camp here in Kansas City. Actually, that's where I live now. That's where it's being filmed. And they sent me to this church at 8 years old. And I would be connected to that church for the next almost 2 decades. Most summers, I would come down. Most New Year's Eves, plural, I would spend with this organization and a conference, end of the year conference that they would hold. And when I was not here, when I was home, this organization here in Kansas City that I was visiting twice a year sometimes was forming, shaping, molding my faith. And when I was young, I remember the first church that I was a part of was awesome. Just as a kid, it was in an old school. They met in the gym, and it was so cool because, I mean, I was 8, 9, 10, and I would just run wild in the school. It was literally a school, and the adults like didn't care. Like, I mean, I just felt like I felt permission to be a kid. So that was really cool. And then as I got a little bit older, I mean, I was just naturally kind of gravitating towards some like leadership positions, like at church or at youth group. I think I preached my first sermon at like 12, maybe 13. My dad used to take us to a soup kitchen, and they would do a little message. They'd preach the gospel before serving food. And that's where I gave my first sermon. Don't remember what it was about. Not long after that, I taught myself guitar and started playing and leading worship, playing on worship teams. And I'm probably like 13 now at this point. And it was like I very much grew up as, if I were to put a label on it now, it was very much non-denominational, charismatic. Okay. Believed in healings and the supernatural, and more conservative for sure. And yeah, that's how I grew up, and that's how everything was. And I remember when, this is such a random story. Here's a quick side note. I'm trying to get better at this podcast thing, so I'm needing to remind myself that I'm just telling a story. We're just having a conversation. Back to the podcast. To really help you understand how quote unquote conservative and charismatic we were. I remember when I was 8, I went to a Catholic school. This is like, I'm backtracking a little bit. My parents didn't really know what to do with faith, so they just sent me to where they went. My dad went when he was a kid. And I remember them like being really strict and all these things. And we were like, oh, they're really religious. And there was like, I don't know if my dad actually said this, but there was like alluding to that they were like the Pharisees because they were very strict and rigid. And it's kind of funny to think about now. And something similar happened when I was in like, I think 6th grade. I won, like the Bible trivia thing for the small school that I was in. And I would do like prayer meetings during lunch. I would skip lunch, and it was just, I mean, it was genuine for sure. And as I got older in high school, still leading worship on worship teams. My parents were a part of a church plant where it started in our home, and it was crazy. Every Friday night we would have just people over. And this is, I think, like my first taste of being hospitable and hospitality. If any of you know me, I love to host. It's my favorite thing. and people would come over, and I'd make them coffee, I'd make them tea, and they would just be over for hours. And it was cool. I wish I had a better word for it, because I don't know if that really does it justice, but we would worship and we would pray, and we felt God's presence, whatever that means. And it was cool to be around. And what I think was the coolest about my upbringing in Christianity as a teenager was the way my parents modeled it. You see, they are entrepreneurs and had a business, and they would always say that they didn't feel called to Africa, but they wanted to pay for the person that was. And for them, they lived very missionally all the time. And so there were so many times where we'd be at the dinner table, and it would come up that this guy down the hall in the office gave his life to God because dad shared his faith with them, or mom prayed for someone that was sick and they started feeling better. And that was just like normal, and they just worked. That piece is kind of important for what's going to come. They just lived a normal life. They worked, and they took their faith everywhere that they went with them. And it was cool. And so for years, I would say, I don't feel called to Africa, but I want to be the person that I want to pay for the person that feels like they're called to Africa. And that was my view of Christianity. Now, senior year comes around, and I went to a small private Christian school, and they early in the school year would give like an award for like the spiritual leader of the school, and I won that award. I don't really think I was that spiritual in hindsight. I mean, really looking back on it, I wasn't really reading my Bible too much, and I wasn't really praying too much. And if you know nothing about Christianity, that's like kind of the mark of real health in faith, is the relationship that you have with God behind closed doors. And so I very much, maybe this is really brutal to say about younger me, but it very much felt like a whitewashed tomb. I mean, I looked the part on the outside, winning the awards, holding Bible studies, and being on the worship team, preaching, speaking in front of like the crowds, like, yeah. And so I don't think any of that was bad, like in retrospect. I guess the point that I'm trying to get is that I very much looked apart, and it was lacking internally. And so fast forward a little bit more, high school, finished that. I'm still very much like I would say like very involved in church, very involved in all those kinds of things. Sorry, I'm trying to remember the important things. And then went to college, was a part of a InterVarsity Christian club, just a college campus ministry. And that was cool. And I was leading some Bible studies, had some awesome times. That honestly was probably like my favorite part of my faith story growing up, was those Bible studies that I had with my friends Allie and Tyler and Ariel. I mean, it was awesome. And we kind of just had this approach of, let's read the Bible, and if Jesus says to do it, let's do it. Now, what sparked these Bible studies that I just mentioned in college was my college. I only went to community college for 2 years, and I didn't finish. But there were some wild times. I mean, I wish that I could redo some things for sure. Mostly, I wish that I wasn't so busy, that I spent time with my family. I miss them a lot. But I was taking 6 college classes. I was working an overnight job a couple times a week. I was working a part-time job in the morning after that, a couple of days a week, at Edible Arrangements, which is super random, but I like prepped the fruit, whatever, took the trash out. And then I was in an internship in my church. So I was just busy. And I was at one of my jobs doing the dishes. And I'm just thinking about like, oh, I want to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I want to start this business and I want to make this much money. And oh, actually, I'm going to finish school, but I don't want to finish it here. I want to go to like this insert prestigious school name. Like, I want to do this, I. And in the middle of that, like, self-dialogue of I felt like a whisper from God, not like an actual one. If you're not a Christian, I don't know how to explain these things. So I'm trying to be normal and down to earth, but I felt like God asked a question to me and he said, what about what I want? And in that moment, my heart sank to my stomach and I felt so sick. And I was like, well, what do you want, God? And this is what I heard back. Nothing. How ridiculous. God just drops this bomb on me. And to make a long story short, I felt compelled to open Matthew, to the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 28. And the Great Commission jumps off of the page to me to go out and make disciples and to teach them to keep his command, baptizing them and to teach them to keep my commands. It was make disciples and teach them to keep my commands. Those are the two things in that passage that jumped out to me. And that's where this Bible study at college with some of my buddies came to being. Is just me and Tyler at first. And I told him the story that I just told you with a little bit more detail. And I said, dude, we have to do this. This isn't an option for people that call themselves Christians. We have to make disciples and we have to teach people to keep like God's commands. And how can we teach something that we don't know? I can't teach calculus because I don't know calculus. I have to learn it to teach it. I can't teach God's commandments to people because I don't know his damn commandments. I need to learn them. So I asked my buddy, I said, hey, let's go through the Bible. If Jesus says it, let's do it. And it's kind of foolproof to this day. And that was awesome. It was a great time. We had a lot of, it grew from just me and Tyler to me, Tyler, and our friend, Allie. And then, it just kept growing. Couple. And then we started having prayer nights at my house, and it was really cool. It was really, really cool for that time and what I believed then. And so shortly after that is when I moved to Kansas City. I guess maybe I can breeze over the church that I was interning at. I was a part of. Did not have a good experience in the long run with them. But, I mean, there's nothing significant to really share about them other than I did not have a great experience, even in retrospect, seeing all of the people that I really respected there that ended up leaving, and everyone for the same issue, from the same group of people, treating people a certain way. So that was maybe my first, that's kind of weird. And then, I don't know, how impactful this is to me in the grand scheme of things, but that college group that I was a part of, eventually, I got into it with one of the guys who was dude's a scholar. He knew his Bible, and he was calling me a heretic for, I don't know, I was just telling him the story that I just told you, and I would also say, let's just throw everything we know about what we know about faith, and let's just start over. And if Jesus says it, let's do it. And we got into it and whatever. I don't really think that's important. But moving on, I moved to Kansas City and I moved to be a part of this organization, to work at this camp that I attended to as a kid. This was my intro to Christianity, was this camp, was this organization. And I was so excited to come here. I mean, I don't know that I've ever told this story to anybody, but my last year as a camper, I think I was 14 or 15. I had to leave early, 4 days early, which if you do camps, 4 days is a long time. I mean, camp nowadays is 5 days, maybe 6 days. The camps back then, 15 days. Shout out Zach Hensley. Those were the best freaking weeks of my life. And I had to leave 4 days early. I was super bummed. And I remember like leaving the parking lot at the extended stay on 435. And I'm like, oh God, make this up to me. So now fast forward 7 years, I'm back in Kansas City. I'm working the camp that I left that impacted me as a child. Okay. And time of my life. Had so much fun. I was just supposed to come for the summer. They're like, hey, like, why don't you do this with us year round? I was like, no way. No way. This is real. And it was. And called my parents. They said, you should do it. And I was like, really? It's kind of crazy. I feel like that's where our relationship started, honestly. And yeah, I then spent my 20s, like 20 to like 26 at this organization and experienced the most fulfillment that I've ever experienced in my entire life. I loved my job there. It was the best thing I've ever done. Working summer camps, the students that I had, doing music with them, just like those people meant the world to me. And it was amazing. It was so amazing. I could talk about that for hours, but I'm going to fast forward. 2 years ago-ish, give or take, 2 years ago, that organization, the founder, there was a huge scandal, and it's mostly shut down now. And before all that came out, just I had bad experiences. Didn't feel taken care of by pastors. Went to them with very vulnerable things and did not feel cared for. Did not feel looked after. Not even feel, I wasn't. I was genuinely neglected and was giving everything that I had to this organization and was seeing awesome fruit, but it was at the cost of me. And I was dying. Not physically. Just with some of the situations I was in, and I don't know how to fully articulate or share, because I definitely want to be tactful and don't want to overshare or trauma dump on a podcast. My bigger goal is to bring you into understanding. But basically, friends, the best friends I've ever had in my life, not friends with them anymore. People who I thought I'd be in their wedding, they'd be in mine, don't talk to at all for different reasons. It's really sad. It's really sad. And this job, I wouldn't say that I necessarily found my identity in this job, but I think I was actively doing what I was made to do at this job. And now it's all gone. And I mean, I still don't know what to say. Like, what the hell? Like, it was like, what the hell? I mean, even my friends that like I thought were friends, like, what the hell? Like, what the, like, people that called themselves Christians were treating me the way that I didn't think Christians were supposed to treat people. Now, if you're listening to this and you have some hurt feelings towards Christians that call themselves Christians or pastors, at the end of the day, they're still fucking people. That's kind of what I'm like trying to remind myself. I was like, yeah, that was really shitty, but they're still people. And so I don't necessarily hold bitterness against them. Not completely, but there's pain there. Fast forward, I start working for another church, and I'm like, okay, this is good. I was getting, a big thing I just kind of blew over. That church wasn't paying me very much at all. In 2020, I think I made $13,000. Was working 60 hours a week. Now, it was a like missions organization, so I was supposed to raise my own money. But I think that just goes to the pastoral neglect of like helping me. And this isn't to demonize everyone. There was some people that were extremely instrumental in pastoring me, and I still have a lot of respect for one of those individuals that I can think of. And so, move on to the next church, working there, and they start paying me a little bit more. And I was like, dude, no way. I'm getting paid to do work. This is crazy. It still wasn't much at all. I was like, this is dope. I can do this. And was finding great community there. It was awesome. Again, it was so awesome. I mean, I started a small group with some of the people, with one of the people that I like was really good friends with, and was really connecting with the community. And it was awesome. It was awesome. Loved it. The people were great. And then I don't know what the fuck happened, but there was like a 180 switch. And it got to a point where I was told I needed to go find another job. I was told I wasn't wanted there. I was told they were looking for a reason to get me out. And I was like, what the hell is going on, dude? I'm leaving out so many details. I do want to be tactful in sharing my story, because I don't want to demonize any group or any person. They're people. Whatever. And so just leave this, some would say, cult for 6-7 years. Then I go to this next church and it's awesome. And then they want like switch up 180. And now I was like in this lull, and I'm now working at a church. This is the church studio. This is the church microphone. This is the church equipment. I'm actually using all church stuff except everything that I'm using right now is the churches. And in my interview with the pastors, I was like, if I'm being honest, I hate the word Christian. I don't know that I ever want to step foot into his church again. And I know damn well I don't ever want to work for a church ever again. Bad experiences. Bad. From the church that I interned at in high school or college to the cult adjacent organization that I gave myself to for the better part of my 20s, to this other church that was so awesome, and I was finally finding friends and community, finally getting some healing. And now I'm here and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm good. And this was towards the end of I think we had a couple interviews or a couple conversations, and they said, hey, like if you can have an open heart, then we'd love to have you, see how things work out. And I have been with this church for over a year now. So I would say that it's going okay. And my heart is soft towards religion, towards church, towards God, towards Christians, even though I can't stand them most of the time. Gandhi said it best. I'm probably going to butcher it, but he said, it's not your God I have an issue with, it's your Christians. And the Christians I have a issue with. Probably butchered the hell out of that quote. But it's been healing. And I told you that I was going to share with you what I've held on to in this journey to help me not give up. And I'm actually going to read a passage, if that is okay. It's from John, the Gospel of John, chapter 1. The whole story is 43 through 50, but I won't bore you with the entire thing. Essentially, Jesus... It's late. I've had a long day. Essentially, Jesus is gathering his disciples for the first time. Okay. And he finds Philip, and he's like, yo, go get your brother. His brother's Nathaniel. And Philip goes up to Nathaniel. He's like, yo, Nathaniel, Jesus is here. And to put things into context, in that culture, everyone was looking for the Messiah. And like people knew, like people were grew up knowing that the Messiah is going to come and he's going to set us free, essentially. It's a big deal. And so Philip's like, yo, Nathaniel, Jesus is here. He's calling us. He's in Nazareth. And his response is so valid. He goes, Nazareth? Can anything good come from there? He's like, there's no way anything good can come from this town. Fast forward. He goes. Nathaniel goes to Nazareth, or wherever Jesus was. And upon seeing him, this is verse 47, says, when Jesus saw Nathanael approaching, he said of him, here's truly an Israelite, in whom there is no deceit. Nathanael asks, how do you know me? And Jesus answered, I saw you while you were still under the tree, before Philip even called you. And in that moment, Nathanael declared, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. And Jesus said, you believe because I told you I saw you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than this. He then added, very truly, I tell you, you will see heaven open and angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. Whatever. The last part is not the part that I want to emphasize. What I want to emphasize is that Nathanael did not believe. Nathanael doubted. He said, the Savior is in that town? No way. Didn't believe. Didn't have faith. Questioned it. Really? You sure? From there? But what did Nathanael do? He still went. In his doubt, in his questioning, in his unbelief, in his uncertainty, and all of that, Nathanael still goes. See what it's all about. And what does Jesus do when he sees Nathanael? Nathanael's coming in his doubt, in his disbelief, in his skepticism. And upon arrival, Jesus affirms him and says, there's no one in Israel like this guy. And as an Israelite without deceit. An affirmation upon arriving in skepticism and in doubt. And Nathanael's like, what? How did you know that? And Jesus said, I saw you. So not to beat a dead horse, but Nathanael didn't believe. He was doubting. He was skeptical. Unsure. Uncertain. Goes to Jesus, and in his doubt, in his skepticism, in his unbelief, in his questioning, upon arrival is affirmed by Jesus. And reading that gave me permission to be doubtful. Reading that story gave me permission to have skepticism. Reading that passage gave me permission to not be sure. But it's what we do in that uncertainty. It's what I do in my disbelief. It's what I do in my doubt. You see, Nathanael still went to God. And so me, in this fucked up, long-ass journey of hurt and letdown and neglect, I'm describing all my church experiences. And all of this, I've been like, God, I don't know what the hell this is, because this is not the God that I experienced, alluding to the ways I've been treated. I don't know what this is, but I know, actually, I don't know anything. All I know is that I can come to you in this. And I'm not healed or arrived. I'm not proclaiming my faith from the mountaintops just yet. I'm far from perfect. I've said so many F-bombs probably in this episode. But I am going to God, and my heart feels soft towards the idea of Christianity. And gratefully, the place that I work has really been redeeming a lot of this stuff for me. I don't hold my breath because I thought that way about other places before, and maybe this is different. I'm hopeful that it is. I feel good that it is different. But man, like, I'm grateful that I've made it this far. I'm grateful that God has kept me, that he continues to soften my heart. And I hope that you can approach God in your questions and in your doubt. I hope you feel permission to ask questions. I hope you feel permission to not know. I hope you feel permission to be unsure. And I hope that you find the strength to go to God in those things. Now, I don't want this channel to be an all God, all Christian channel, because there are other things I like to talk about. Clearly, I'm 5 episodes in and I haven't really talked much about God. And that isn't, I guess like the bigger point that I'm trying to say is this is definitely like a one-off. And I'll definitely talk about spirituality some more. And I have some people that I want to talk to hear how they processed. And maybe I'll talk more about that cult adjacent organization that I was a part of. But I want to end this podcast with a prayer. And I'm not going to do this all the time, but it'll be short. So wherever you're at, I'm praying for you. And God, I just thank you for the person on the other end of the camera. I thank you for the person that has made it this far watching me ramble and tell my story that isn't the only one like it. But I'm asking you for the person that has questions, that has doubts, that has uncertainties, disbelief. God, I'm asking that you would affirm them where they're at. God, I'm asking that you would help us to see you rightly, that you would give us strength to hold on, strength to keep going. And God, for those people that are confident in their faith, God, I'm asking that they would truly love like you. God, I'm asking that you would truly prune and refine us. God, I'm asking that you would bless us. I'm asking that you would keep us. I'm asking that your face would shine upon us. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, and that's it. That's my story. In short, I've had grew up Christian boy, had some fucked up experiences. Now I'm working through it. And so that's it. That's it for today's episode. I hope you find value in this. If you're here to the end, damn, I owe you coffee or lunch or something, because it's impressive that you stayed this long. But I'll see you next time. Make it a great day. Control what you control. Control what you can control, because future you is counting on it. See you on the next one.